We talked last week about Apple and some of its privacy things it's doing with AI and stuff. There's this really interesting, you've probably heard about this if you look into cybersecurity and things at all, but if you're new, there's a company in Israel called NSO, and this group makes a tool called Pegasus. Pegasus is a very, very powerful tool that can essentially break into any phone, anytime, remotely, and is supposed to be used by governments as a counterintelligence tool, but its capabilities that we know of so far are quite shocking. There are reports that you don't even have to open the text message that it sends you. Once it sends you the text message, it has full control of your device, whether that be Android or iPhone. Like the things that people are saying about this tool and the stories out there of what it can do is astounding. So I obviously don't have access to the tool. I can't tell you if it works that way or not, but we know this company is a very big company, makes a lot of money off these tools. So I'm quite certain it's very effective in some manner, right? And it's been over the news and a lot of documentaries about security and things because of obviously the abuse of this tool. Because once you use a tool like this, somebody else can capture it, right? And then they can potentially reverse engineer and utilize it.
Once you make this kind of tool
and use it,
yeah,
it's out there.
It's also software, so it's not like it can't be copied.
Yeah. Well, would you download a car, Michael?
100%.
Okay, cool. So this NSO
unless
group,
it has a camera in the cabin tracking me, then I don't want to download that car.
You remember
but
those
you could
movies?
download the software from your car, someone else's car, and stop it from starting.
Oh, Jill, I'm starting to worry about Jill, Michael. Like, we thought she was all this nice, friendly Jill, but turning out she's an elite hacker.
We are learning quite a bit this episode about our friend Jill.
Man, I'm kind of scared. Last week we were talking about her hacking into my computer, and this week she's just finally coming out with all this.
It just so happens that
she's a hacker.
She might have already done it before.
Right. So the NSO Group has been sued by Apple back in 2021. So they've had a lawsuit out there for the last 3 years for the fact that it uses this Pegasus tool on iPhones. However, this week, Apple dropped the case, which shocked a lot of people. A lot of people were very happy that Apple was pursuing this lawsuit to kind of stop this tool from getting out any further. And the reason Apple gave for dropping the case reportedly is that they're afraid if this case continues, Pegasus will use the information in the discovery phase of the case to essentially to continue to improve their tool. As in Apple's words, they will use any means necessary to get information about how their system works and utilize it. Yeah. So instead of potentially revealing sensitive information, Apple has decided to just give up. And I think it's a shame because we have to wonder how much Apple can do actually to block these kind of companies who are using exploits they're not making known to the public and potentially doing all kinds of damage and things, especially if these things get out in the wild, like we mentioned before. So, yeah, crazy.
Supposedly, these are good actors that are trying to do good for society.
Because government's good.
Because that's why I said
we support our government.
That's why I gave a lot of snark when I said good actors. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, these kinds of things shouldn't exist, and it's a shame that this happened. It makes sense that Apple, like what their reasoning makes sense to drop it, but also it's kind of a shame because these kinds of things, especially if it just requires sending messages and you don't even have to open the message, I'm pretty confident I'm just going to delete SMSs and like just the functionality from
that was one of our tips of the week is to not allow messages. There's a way to block downloading of any videos or photos.
Yeah, but not to download anything. I was just going to block all messages, period. Like all
just block them all. Yeah. I mean, I don't read yours anyway, so I might as well just block them.
I mean, exactly. I don't think you read any at this point.
I think you're Pegasus. I think you're the founder.
Oh, well, recently.
That's probably Jill.
No, yes.
Probably Jill. You're right. That's, man.
I do like Pegasus.
I'm sure you do.
Creatures.
Since you founded it. Jill.
No.
I think she meant the flying horses.
Flying horses, yeah. So actually recently on Destination Linux episode number 386, we actually talked about fingerprint and credit card data being at risk on Android phones, but Apple wasn't mentioned in the title of the article, even though their phones, have the same horrible vulnerabilities. And, it's when we talk about information about this recent issue, and Apple actually is gatekeeping and keeping security breaches out of the news. So this is no surprise.
Yeah, because you have to wonder,
it's scary.
Are they dropping the case because they don't want people to know how? Are they really dropping it because of the reveal? Obviously, Pegasus has a lot of information they want. In the discovery phase, I know lawyers have the ability to request certain information and things, but it has to have some relevance to the case. Is it really that Apple doesn't want people to know like how easy it was and how vulnerable they were? And it goes back to your point, Michael, of saying like these companies that say, oh, open source is more dangerous because you can see the code. But we have no idea in a closed system whether Apple can say they're the most private thing in the world. Android can say they're the most private thing in the world. One, you can actually check. The other, you can't. And so without reverse engineering, so we don't know. There could have been a vulnerability that's so stupid. It's like your passwords in your notepad file and all your encryption keys are stored, in an open folder right there. Like, we don't know. And that could be something they're trying to hide too. We just don't know because it's closed source. And that's the dangers of proprietary. So there's give and take. Not one's necessarily always the path to take, but there's give and take in either of those scenarios.
Yeah. And in many cases, companies like Apple have to have, some security policies in place, so this is especially for like, government investigation and whatnot. So it's there has to be that security there, but it would be nice to find out a little more information.
With the subpoena through the courts, through the proper channels is how it's supposed to work. I'm not quite sure sending a text message and getting full access to everybody's stuff.
Yeah, the way that Pegasus apparently works
is scary.
Not. It also makes you think about maybe this Pegasus thing is how, because there was like this report in 2016, I believe, that the FBI was contacting Apple and trying to get them to open up a phone for some suspect or something. And they didn't do it. They didn't want to do it. And then all of a sudden, the FBI stops trying to get Apple to do it because they found a third party who was able to help. I'm like, okay, that's scary.
That is. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody believed that story, as I recall, to begin with, because they had physical access to the phone, but claimed they couldn't get into it. The belief was they were actually utilizing that to get Apple to open an easier backdoor so that they could remote into it. But
because they had physical access. It was just like, you should be able to get in. What are you talking about?
They could get in.